welcome now back after the break to the last part of the second tutorial on R, where we are looking at different types of data objects, some advanced data objects, and until now we have looked at data frames, and we have looked at lists as well as time series objects, and we learned that there are several advantages to dealing with these objects. The final thing that we wanted to show in this tutorial is to teach you as how to import data from other sources, and of course, we are not going to look at all these sources, but we are looking at 4 different and popular sources. One is the R data file itself, that is a file name with an extension .r data. Typically, this is a file that is created by the user or by R, for example, sorry, when you are quitting a session. And the R saves essentially this data in a binary format, and all such files have this extension .r data. So, that is the first thing that we are going to learn, how to save and how to load back from the saved file. And the second source that we are looking at is a text file. So, how to read from a text file which may have extensions .txt or .dat and so on. More than the extension, the important thing is that your data should be stored in an ASCII format. That is the important part here. And once we learn that, we shall move on to learning how to read from comma separated variable file, that is CSV file or .csv files, which is an elementary version of an Excel file. Of course, Excel file is a lot more advanced than the CSV file, but CSV format is a very common one that is used by many to store data. And finally, we will look at how to read data from an Excel spreadsheet, because a lot of data in general is available in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. So, this hopefully covers if not all, but the 4 broadly used formats for storing data. So, let us get started now and look at how to load or sorry save whatever variables you have in a .r data file, and this is frequently necessary. For example, you worked on a homework, or you worked on a project, or you just partly worked on a problem and you want to return to it later on and so on. Reasons may be plenty, but the end result is that you want to save these variables that you have created in the R session into a file that you will return that you will revisit in a later session. So, the command to save the variables in an .r data file is a save command, and once again I strongly recommend that you bring up the help on save and read through before you rush into using this command. Many a times we want to save only a few variables in the workspace, because those are the important ones, in which case the syntax is that of course save open bracket or parenthesis, and followed by a list of the objects that you want to save. So, here I had created XMTS, ZTS and so on, and I want to save this in a file called examples ts.r data, all right. And the file name is given in quotes, you should observe that it is a string, and that is it. So, this is simplest way of using the save command. First of all, let us make sure that we have all these variables in the workspace. In my case, I do not have the birth TS as I can see here. In fact, how do you bring up the list of variables in the workspace? You can use ls. Either you can read in the environment panel, which shows all the variables and the types of its type and dimensions and so on, or for a quick look you can even look at the console and bring up the list of variables by typing in ls with open and close parenthesis, nothing in it. And as you can see here, I do not have birth TS because I did not create that variable. Remember, we were not able to access the net. So, birth_ts is missing here. Nevertheless, I am not going to execute this command or let us execute this. I will just give this a different file name. Let us say example ts1.rdata, and I am going to remove the birth_ts variable because I do not have that in the workspace. So, when I run this command here, when I run this command, no, ZTS is, sorry, so I do not have XMTS either. So, let me first create the, go back, it says I do not have XMTS either. Okay. So, all right. So, I have run that, XMTS is in the workspace, and yeah, ZTS is already there in the workspace, very good. And now, I go to the appropriate line here, and okay. So, now I have managed to save the XMTS and ZTS in this file name called example ts1.rdata. Notice that R and D are both in uppercase and the rest are in lowercase. So, it is a somewhat not an easy thing to remember, but over a period of time you will get used to it. Else you can actually store all of these variables in that is whatever variables are there in the workspace, I want to store all of them in a file, and let us say all that as let us say session 2.rdata, just changing the file name for the sake of it. And the way you do it is typically Save expects you to either supply the names of the objects or I mean as is like we did previously, or the names as a list object, and that is what I am doing here. When I want to save all the variables in the workspace, the ls routine gets me the list of all variables in the workspace, and all dot names, setting that to true, gets me all the variable names and returns the ls returns the output as a list object, and that is being passed on to save. So, that is the idea here, right. And that is it. So, the rest of the story is the same, you specify the file name in quotes, and now when I run this, so that is also done. So, I have now created two files, one containing specific objects from the workspace and the other containing all the variables in the workspace. Let us check indeed if all these if these files have been created. Either you can use the dir command in to bring up the file names. I have session 2.rdata that has been created, and then I have examples ts1.rdata that has also been created. So, let us look at the files here, the list of the files in the working directory. In fact, in my case the files are here in this panel. For some of you the files may actually be next to the environment. Many times I have seen that configuration as well. Right now this is not the current directory. In fact, I should actually set the file pane okay. So, I will go to the Google Drive tutorial. So, you can see here the list of files as well. So, I have here for example examples ts1.rdata, or if you go down you have session 2.rdata. Either way you are fine, and you must have seen just now that I ran a command from the menu bar to set the working directory to either the source file location or the files pane location, and that is something that one needs to know when working with RStudio. All right. So, now that I am convinced that all this both these files have been created, I may want to clear the workspace. In fact, let us clear all the variables from the workspace here, and I am going to just execute this command. So, this way I have cleared the workspace, and now RStudio correctly shows that the environment is empty. Now, let us load the variables back into the workspace, right, just to learn how to load from a given file. Again, we can choose to load one of this. Let us load session 1 rather than session 2. Session 1 is a file I had created in an earlier session offline, which also has birth TS, right. I am going to load that, and the generic command for loading .r data files is the load command. And there are options. For example, you can set the verbose equals true option. Let us run that and it will show you what happens when we load. So, that is all to this .r data. You save and you load. There is another command also called attach. What this attach does is it does not load like the way the load has done, but it provides access to the contents of the file, so that you can specifically access the variable that you want, right, and try that out. So, just try for example attach whatever file name, let us say session 1 or session 2.r data, and you have access to the variables in that file, but they will not be visible in the workspace, and many a times people do that. Many examples which use this attach, and what happens is each time you attach, there is a pointer to that file being created in the workspace. You have to understand that. And if you want to detach, you have to use the detach command. But remember that each time you type in attach for the same file name, there is a separate pointer that is created, which means if you have attached the same file twice, you will have to detach it twice. And that is one of the criticisms that goes with the attach command. But if you know how to use it carefully, then there should be no issue. It is a nice and clean way of accessing a file name or a file, data file, because it does not clutter your workspace. That is the advantage. All right. So, let us move on now and learn how to load data, or how to read data rather, from a text file. You know, text files are actually very common when it comes to storing data, and by text file we mean ASCII formats, and the routine that reads text file data from text file is read.table. So, it basically thinks of this text file as a table, and there are a number of options in this read.table. The first thing is you should bring up the help and look at the number of options. You will be really overwhelmed at the number of things people have thought about when it comes to reading data from text files. We will not be in a position to go through all the options, but I strongly encourage that you go through these options. I will just show you the most basic ones. Now, what I have with me is a file called cement.dat that I have downloaded from a website called datamarket.com, and I have given you the URL. In fact, datamarket.com is a very nice URL where you have all kinds of data sets freely available, and you can choose the one that suits your analysis or interest. So, this data contains monthly production of Portland cement in thousands of tons from January 1956 to August 1995. Now, if I open the cement.dat file, I do not know, let me open this for you, right. So, if you see here, there are two lines at the top of this text file which describes what is contained in this file. So, you have monthly production of Portland cement, and then it says in thousands of tons from the Jan 1956 to August 1995, and mentions the source, and then comes your data. Now, you have to tell this to read.table to ignore these first two lines. But this is not the only way in which data can be stored in a text file. Many a times this description may not be available, or maybe a single line description is available, or there may be multiple columns, and there may be names to each of those columns and so on, and they may be separated by tabs and so on. So, there are just different ways in which data is stored in a text file. This is a very simple file, but definitely gives you an idea of how to use a read.table routine. So, it serves our purpose, and remember that whenever you use a read.table, data is stored as returned or stored as a data frame object. That is something to remember. So, now first let us read the data from this file called cement.dat using read.table, and look at the options here. I am saying header equals false. Now, you may be wondering why I have set header to false when there are actually 2 lines of text there. Well, that is not really the header, that is just a description. Header would mean some column name, for example. So, here that is not the case. So, we set header equals false, and we are telling read.table to skip the first 2 lines, because that is not data. And at the same time, we are telling read.table to assign a column name, which is the choice is yours. I have chosen it to be cement. So, let us run this particular command here, and great. So, it has created the data frame object, and we can ask for the type of the data, the object that has been created, and it confirms that it is a data frame. Now, I can do all the things that I have learnt or with the data frame. For example, I can ask for a summary, right, which reports the basic statistics, minimum, max, and median, mean, and first quartile and third quartile. So, you can play around, you can change the column name, you can change the row names, or you can convert the data into a time series object, right. We can coerce a data frame into a time series object, and as we learnt earlier, we use the TS routine for this, TS command, and we are supplying the start time, and we are saying frequency equals 12 because it is a monthly reading that is available starting from 1956 January. So, that is it. So, if I run this command here, I have the TS object being created, and then I can plot this. So, I am going to show you the plot here. So, this is how the plot looks like when I plot it as a time series object. Remember, this is a time series object. So, plot knows that a line plot has to be drawn, and of course, I have done all the embellishments of giving the X label and Y label and choosing BTY as L rather than a box. That is it. So, reading from a CSV file is very easy, and as I said earlier, please do look at the different options that are available in read.table, because a lot of these options should be known a priori, or maybe they are useful in a particular context that you are looking at, or for a particular application. Maybe your text file has been formatted in that way. So, please do check those options and some of the other examples that are available either in the help or elsewhere on the web. Let us move on to the final part of this tutorial, where we learn now how to read data from an Excel object. Sorry. Oh, I am so sorry. So, we have just now learned how to read from a text object. So, now we turn our attention to reading from CSV and then a more advanced version, which is Excel. Now, when it comes to reading data from a CSV, again here we have read.csv, which more or less has the same syntax as read.table, and also the options pretty much look alike, maybe barring one or two. And there is also a read.csv2. The read.csv routine is available for reading data from a comma separated file, whereas read.csv2 reads data from a semicolon separated file. In many countries, semicolon is used as a separator as opposed to comma, because if you look at countries like Germany, comma is used to separate elements of a date. So, if I am writing today's date, let us say as 28 February, if I am in Germany, I would write 28,02, whereas that is not probably the trend somewhere else. Therefore, there is another routine which reads data from a semicolon separated file. In countries like that, semicolon would be used widely. Now, with the exception of the separator, they are all identical in terms of operation. And there are many other routines available that allow you to read files with different kinds of separators. Again, we call them as delimiters. There are this generic files, for example, routines called read.delim and read.delim2 that can be used for other kinds of delimiters. Somebody must have used hyphen, for example, as a delimiter and so on. So, you can specify the delimiter. Read.csv is specifically meant for comma separated or comma as a delimiter. So, let us look at an example here. Now, again I have a sample CSV file here from Data Market, and this is a monthly milk production in pounds, and let me bring up that file here. This is the CSV file and let me open that with let us say Excel, so that you see how it looks like. So, now you can see unlike the text file, there is a header here. So, there are two columns here first of all. First column is the month and second column is the monthly milk production, and the names are given for each of these columns. The name for the first column is month, and the second column has this unusually long column name. We will actually cut it short when we read the data. So, opening the CSV file or whichever file that you are reading prior to reading it into R is a very good habit, because then you know what you are reading and what kind of options have to be supplied. Now, having done that, now let us run it through the read.csv, and we say header equals true, because in this case the header is present. And once we run that, yes, so this data has been read again into a data frame, and I am changing the column name to a to a much shorter one for the second column. I am just saying milk production per cow. It could be even much shorter, it could be your choice. So, I have changed, and we can read the first few lines. This is a data frame, remember, and the output is shown here. So, it shows clearly the first few lines and the data has read correctly. It is a good habit also to cross check with the data file after you have read that indeed you have read the correct data. So, for example, the first value reads here 578.3, and that is indeed the first reading. Otherwise, if you have what could happen is you could have given an option which has forced read.csv to read something else, and you have a completely different data that you are working with, only to discover a few days later. So, to avoid all such catastrophes, I would say in data analysis, it is better to do this preliminary checks after you have read the data. Okay. So, now that it is a data frame object, you can do all the things that you can do with data frame, right. So, finally, let us move on to reading, learning how to read data from an Excel file. Now, we know the difference between a CSV file and an Excel file is in an Excel file you have worksheets and named worksheets and so on. By itself, R does not have a functionality to read data from an Excel file. So, you need separate packages, user developed packages, and there are quite a few of them, and I am just naming here 4 of them. One is this Excel Connect with Excel and C in uppercase, and then you have XLSX, and then you have Open XLSX and Excel.link packages. There are many others, I am not saying these are the only 4. Depending on your needs, you can pick one of those. The more popular ones are Excel Connect and XLSX, and I prefer the Excel Connect because it has the ability also to for example, do certain operations within the Excel file without having to open or read the data from Excel file, and there are a couple of other advantages as well. But mind you, both Excel Connect and XLSX require Java to be installed on your machine, and if it isn't, of course, when you run it the first time, it is likely that RStudio can crash, I have had it many times. And then when you install the right version of Java, then everything is all right. So, I had a later version of Java installed, for example, whereas Excel Connect was asking me for a previous version of Java. And I did that. In fact, on Mac, 2 different versions of Java can coexist. So, I did that, and then Excel Connect was happy, RStudio was happy, and then I was able to use the routines in Excel Connect. There is an excellent Vignet that is available. When I mean Vignet, an example document that shows you what are the different features of that package, and for Excel Connect there is a very nice Vignet. You should go through that after you have just listened to this tutorial, because we do not discuss all the features of this package. There are many other features that you may be interested in. At the moment, what I am going to show you is how to read and how to write to an Excel file, how to read from an Excel file and how to write. There are other things that you can do. As I said, you can perform operations within an Excel file without having to really read the data and then again write it back. Okay. Now, when you are dealing also with large data files, remember Excel Connect uses Java, so it can slow down your machine. So, let us illustrate how to use this Excel Connect. I have said here that I require Excel Connect. So, that I am telling R, if this package has not been loaded, it should load it. So, I am going to run that, and in my case I have already loaded it, therefore, it does not do anything here. The command to read Excel file, there are 2 ways of reading Excel files. One is that you can load a pointer, so when to the Excel file, and then you can access all the worksheets, or if you know the worksheet name, you can directly read the worksheet from the Excel file. So, the first usage that I am showing is where we are loading a pointer. In fact, we are not loading the entire Excel file, so to speak. So, your Excel file is the object that contains all the information about this monthly milk.xls file that I have. This is another XLS file that I have, and I have it in my directory. I am just checking. So, this is the Excel file. In fact, if I open this, it will show you. Let me zoom this up. So, this is monthly milk production during a different date. It is again pounds per cow from Jan 62 to December 75, and all the details are given here. And it is important to open up this Excel file before you read data, because you need to know which row your data begins from. So, in this case, up to 15th there is no data, it is only 16th row onwards I have the data of interest to me, the rest is all the description, and I may have to pass this information to the appropriate command. So, the first thing that we do is we load the workbook. The data is not yet loaded, right, only the pointer is loaded, and now we can pick the worksheet. In my case, I have only one worksheet, but typically you may have many worksheets in a single Excel file, and each worksheet has a name. Here, in fact, the name of this worksheet that I have, you may not be able to see it. Yeah. So, I will tell you the name of the worksheet. The name of the worksheet is monthly milk production. I have named it that way. So, now to read a specific worksheet from this object that contains information about Excel file, you use the read worksheet file name. Notice the uppercase for W here in the read worksheet and also in the load workbook. Do not miss out on the uppercase. So, that is it. So, Excel file is the pointer. So, I have run that command, I have executed that, and I am going to execute this command line now. So, now this big X contains the data, and remember I have set start row as 15, which means it will actually start reading the header also. When I say start row equals 15, it would read, let's say if it has read the, we can ask for, right. So, it has not given any name to the second column, it simply says month and call to. But that's where it has started to read. If you don't want a header name, then you have to say start row equals 16 and set header equals false. That is something that you have to keep in mind, because it will always assume that the first row, if you don't specify, is a header, and that can be a problem. So, here I know that the header is on the 15th row, and therefore, I have used the start row. Again, look at the uppercase R here. So, hopefully you got it. We will load the file as a point, as an object. The data is not yet read, and then we read specific worksheets as and when we need it. And now your X is a data frame. That is a standard thing. Or as I said earlier, if I am interested only in a specific worksheet, I do not want to load the full worksheet. Excuse me. I do not want to load the full worksheet because, full file, because it may be too huge, and I am only interested in a specific worksheet. Then I can use the read worksheet from file. This is a big command, but notice where the uppercase letters are W, F and F. And I specify the file name. Here I do not have to refer to the object that I had earlier created. Specify the name of the worksheet, again specify the starting row. Directly it would read the data from that particular worksheet. So, let us execute this when we are done, and the final thing, so let us check indeed if it has done the job. It has done it, and it the values look at the same that are contained in X. Now, the final thing that we learn is how to write data to a workbook. The first thing that you have to do is create a workbook. Now, create a workbook does not mean that the workbook is created in your directory. It is floating at the moment. So, the first step is, again you use the load workbook. It is a kind of a peculiar thing, but you use load workbook, but now you use this load workbook with the create option set to true. By default, create option is false because it searches for the directory in the file within the directory. So, I am asking it to create a file called my excel file.xls, and as I said just now, it does not create the file yet. It is just floating right now as an object, and that is contained in my excel file. Now, you can read the cement data that we earlier referred to. So, I have read that, and now I am going to write this cement data with the timestamps. For that, I am generating the timestamps, as you can see here, set.data and so on, and then I am going to rearrange the columns here, right. I am just rearranging the columns. So, the first column is time and the second column is cement, and finally, I create a worksheet here. I say create sheet. So, to create a worksheet within the Excel file that I am creating, I use a create sheet, again S being uppercase, give a name to that worksheet, refer to that object which is referring to the file that I have created, and then write the data. So, when you write the worksheet data into the worksheet, still the file is not yet created in the directory. The file is created in the directory only when you say save workbook. So, you start with load workbook, create an object, and then you whatever data that you have, you create a worksheet, you write data into that worksheet, and then use a save workbook. If you do not do the save workbook, unfortunately this file is not created in the directory. So, I am just going to run this particular chunk of R code. In fact, I have already run it. So, I just ran it for you again once, and I can show you now that my excel file.xls has been created, and this is how it looks like. So, that is it. So, you can see here there is a time and cement, these are the names that I had given, and that is it. So, that shows you essentially how to read and write data into an Excel file, and that also brings us to the close of this tutorial, where we have learned different types of data objects, where we have specifically data frames, lists and time series objects. We have briefly touched base on factors, and then in the second part of the tutorial we learned how to read and write data in different formats, namely the .r data, the text file, the CSV and Excel file. And I strongly encourage you to go through the different options for each of the commands that we have discussed, and figure out what is best for your application. Now, see you in the next tutorial. Until then, have a great R session.